Welcome back to Employed People. Today we're going to be talking to Max. He is a tour guide at a movie studio. He's a good friend of mine, and he is going to be taking us through what it's like to get that job, how the interview process was, what it's like day to day, and the weird stuff that he sees along the ride. So thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I enjoyed having Max on. Well, Max, thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate it. So you are a tour guide. What is that like? What does that mean? What do you do?
Yeah, so I am a tour guide. I'm in what's called a PAGE program, which is essentially a 2-year program for a studio's lot, meaning that I, for the first 6 months of this 2 years, will just give standard tours to paying guests who want to look around the lot of the movie studio that I work at and learn about the history of the company, the projects that we've put out over the years, kind of fun Hollywood historical stories. After those first 6 months, then you start getting trained on kind of higher level responsibilities. So tours for like VIP guests and executives, special people that they'll bring onto the lot. And you can also do like welcome center, call center, managing emails, that type of jazz as well. It's supposed to be a bit of a feeder program into different areas on the lot, more corporate jobs.
And so are you at that point now? Like, have you gotten past 6 months and you're being trained for different things?
Yeah, I've been there for about 10 months. I was trained pretty quickly on the VIP and executive level tours, which those are fun. Those can be anywhere from like 1 hour because the celebrity has like barely any time to spare in their entire life to like up to 5 hours. So you get a real big range with those. But I've also been trained on some other responsibilities around the lot that are more managerial.
So when you were being trained to do like your first tour by yourself, did you ever have to do like a mock tour or something like that?
Yes.
They made you do that?
We had a 2-week training program.
Okay.
Genuinely, the entirety of the 2 weeks are building up to your mock tour. So
you have to do like mock tours.
You have to do mock tours. Yeah. You gotta walk the walk and mock the mock. We started out by going to different locations on the studio lot. So like, let's say our main entrance, like inside one of the sound stages, to our like the water tank that they'll film action sequences in. Mm-hmm. And we would just focus on those locations for an entire day. So the previous night you would read the script on those locations, then you would show up for training and be ready to give kind of your spiel on that space. And luckily there's no judgment before the mock tour, so you can literally come in and be like, this is where a movie with water was made. And they'll be like, so that was pretty good. Not great. And they'll like give you notes to work your way up. But at the final day of the 2 weeks of training, that's when you have to be prepared to be asked by your trainers to drive anywhere on the lot, because we drive the golf carts, and give up to 10 to 15 minutes on any individual location from memory.
Do you ever get to a place and you know you have to give the spiel about that room and you just like for a minute you just like forget everything?
So,
like,
yeah.
Oh shit. Wait.
I had a total brain fart a couple weeks back where I was visiting a location that I normally cut out of my tours for time, but a lot of other spaces on the lot that I normally go to were closed. So I kind of improvised, had to work this space in, and I was truly mid-sentence when I realized I had no idea what the name of the person was who I was about to say, who was like this hugely influential figure in the production of one of our like most famous movies, like one of the most famous movies of all time. If I say what it is, it'll give away where I work, so I won't. But let's just say it would be like if I forgot that Christopher Nolan directed Oppenheimer. Like it was that kind of vibe. Okay. So mid-sentence, I had to pivot and be like, and so this figure worked closely with this guy that I named, and like was able to kind of
you could have done. You could have just said like this person, like, does anyone know his name? That's it.
Yeah. Here's the thing though, genuinely, if no one had known his name, what do I do? I'm like, me neither, and I move on. Like, that's the problem with throwing out prompts to the guests, because dude, sometimes these guests are so chatty. Like sometimes you will get You actually took my tour.
I did. I was on your tour once,
Yeah.
and I was going to ask about that, but make your point first.
Yeah. So we'll get to...
Because I have a question about that specifically.
Okay, funny.
But we're going to get there.
The question being, how did I manage to change your life so thoroughly in the 2-hour time span?
Well, I literally invented a podcast just to talk about it.
This is your excuse.
But you're saying they're chatty, but like, are some of them like hardcore cinephiles and they'll correct you?
Not only will
they'll be like, actually, that's not right.
Not only will they correct you, they will think they are correcting me, when in reality, I know I am right, and then I have to let them down easily.
Oh, no.
The worst are people who have, like, a very specific, like, fan base. So this studio has made multiple different franchises. You get people who are obsessed with a single franchise. Like, hypothetically, let's say, Harry Potter.
Okay.
And I will have to know everything there is to know about Harry Potter. And if I bring up any element of it, you know for a fact that someone could jump in at any moment and be, actually, Wingardium Leviosa isn't mentioned until book 2. And then you're like, so as a matter of fact, in the movie adaptation, and then you have to like really kind of let them down easy without saying you're fucking dumb and I hate you.
Yeah, it's like, why are you even on this tour?
Sometimes you get people who are on the tour looking up facts on their phone to ask you. Yeah, like they're training me. Like, what do you want?
Actually, that's how deep you're still doing mock tours. You just don't even know it. All the guests are actually agents.
It's a Matrix scenario. I'm in a simulation of an actual job.
And like after like 2 years, I'm like, all right, you're finally ready
to do the job you think you've been doing.
But I was gonna ask you, I've been on one of your tours. My friend was in town, and we went on one of your tours, and I remember. When you first started here, you have like a tour personality that you kind of have to put on. Obviously, like you're kind of like a game show host or something like that.
That's a great analogy, actually. It is totally like hosting a show.
Yeah, like I remember, like you will never see a game show host crack or be sad or something. Like they have to be this sort of circus showman or something. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying it's probably a lot to keep up all the time, because I imagine you do that 2 or 3 times a day or something. Yeah. And does it ever get to a point where you just like show up at work and you feel like dog shit and you're like, God damn it, like I gotta be.
It does. The funny thing about this job, and I think one of the things that has been helpful for me, is I've been in it for so long that it is now at the point where if I'm having one of those days, I genuinely can kind of coast. Like because I have it so fully memorized, I have my jokes, I have my moments that are meant to feel spontaneous, even though they're not, that I kind of know what reaction I'm going to get from what type of person when, where if I'm having a tough day, if I'm down, I can mask it by just fully turning my brain off. Like, I will get off of a tour and not know a single word I have said, and be ushering my guests out the door who are like, thank you so much, that was so meaningful. And it's just like, I truly couldn't remember their name, anything they have said to me. But then there are other days where it's the opposite of that, where you really do connect. You are able to be more genuine than you normally are, because the people are looking for that. And those are the days that you kind of hold on to.
I was going to say, it's like there are days where like I'll drive to work and I'll be so on autopilot that I'll park and I'll be like, I don't even know how I got here, man.
Yes.
Like, I have no memory of driving to work.
It is like that. When you're on the freeway and suddenly it's been a half an hour, it is kind of like that behind the golf cart, where I can be like, oh, I'm an hour into my tour and I've been moving. I haven't just been sitting in silence in a corner of a room while people waited for me. Like, I've been doing it and you don't even realize it, which is, I think, both good and bad, having that disassociation. It can be healthy, but if it's every day, that's when you kind of start to get look inside.
Yeah, I remember I've met some of your like tour guide coworkers and I'm amazed, like they all have this sort of game show host thing going on, and then the minute they're not there, I'm like, oh, you're a normal human being. Yeah. Wow, like you say curse words. Like
I have a question for you.
That's illegal. What?
How different did I seem in my tour mode than like the me that you knew before?
You know, it actually, I think you're not. This is not going to be a fun answer, because it wasn't that unsimilar. Because when you told me you were a tour guide, I kind of believe it makes perfect sense. Yeah, you kind of have like a presenter thing. Like if someone came up to me and said you need to host an award show tomorrow, I would probably call you first.
That's sweet.
That guy can do it. But yeah, I was saying it wasn't so different, but I remember I went on a tour with my mom. And this was on like Mother's Day when she came to visit me, and this is before I knew that you worked there. But I don't think you were doing tours yet at this time. And there was a tour guide who did our tour, and she was awesome. And then I remember months later, I found out you worked there, and I was at a bar with you and some of your tour people. And then I remember she showed up, and I was like, "Oh my god, you were doing the tour with my mom?"
Yes.
I was like, "You're a normal person.
You're a human being."
Wait a minute, like you're not like an NPC. Like you're open. And I obviously I know that, but it's weird. It is kind of like at a school if you see your teacher outside of
like at the grocery store.
And I'm like, whoa! I thought you just slept at the school.
And they're like buying Cosmopolitan magazine, and you're like, what? I can't conceptualize that.
Yeah, no. I mean, growing up, my mom was a teacher, and sometimes she would like run into her coworkers.
Yeah.
And they would be like talking normally and like dropping a curse word or something. I'm like, this is not real. This can't be.
Was it weird for you running into your mom outside of school?
Dude, it was worse for me. Dude, my mom was my coworker at one point, bro. I worked at a school.
Really?
So I worked with my mom at a school. We were like coworkers, and I remember all of the other teachers. We went to like happy hour with them, and they were just like trash talking the kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I probably got trash talked. You probably got trash talked by the teachers too.
Oh, 100%.
They go to happy hour. I was like, you would not believe what Max fucking did today.
I know for a fact I got trash talked by my teacher because in 3rd grade, my school librarian called my mom to her office to tell her that I had to go to recess with the other kids because I was staying in the library and reading and asking for book recommendations, and I was interrupting her lunch break.
Yeah, so your son is a fucking nerd.
Yeah, genuinely it was that. Like, she was dunking on me to my mom, like, Max is so nice, he's such a lovely boy, he needs to have friends.
This guy is actually a loser.
This guy is going to be a perfect tour guide someday.
Yeah, so I told your son to go down the recess, I shoved him into a locker, I gave him a noogie, all that stuff.
I poured milk down his pants and put his head in the toilet. He's fine now. It builds character.
So I was gonna say, so when you were looking to get this job, I don't think were you like, how did it occur to you to do this? Did you just see the listing and you went for it, or did you like kind of think about it as a route? Like,
yeah, that's a really good question. It was the type of thing where I was in the middle of applying for like multiple different things. And this was one that popped up on LinkedIn, Holly List, whatever it was, one of those assets. And I read the description, and it immediately seemed like, A, something that I have the skill sets for, but B, something that as a platform could lead towards multiple different avenues that I would be interested in. Like, the studio I work at has a very robust awards department. It has a very robust corporate communications sector. It has a lot of different routes that I can see myself going into and learning from to kind of build my network out here, my skill set, and my just ability to live in LA. And having a program that offers you 2 years of solid employment with kind of a launching pad into that was very attractive to me. And it was also just really fun interview process, which made it that much easier to kind of be like, okay, I can see myself working here.
Do you mean the mock tours or before that?
Before that.
what was that like?
The final interview round, because it starts with the resume drop and then kind of preliminary, you send in yourself recorded responding to 3 questions that they give you like 5 minutes each to prepare an answer for. And then the last round was kind of a 2-parter where you show up to the studio lot, and this little inside baseball for people who want to apply to this program in the future. The final round starts with about an hour of conversation about your favorite movie.
An hour?
Yeah.
You have to talk with like... Oh, wow.
But with other applicants. So it's like a round table discussion.
Are you like fighting with them kind of?
No, but some people were. I was smart. I was not combative. Other people were kind of like trying to make their case for theirs as the best.
Yeah, that movie's stupid. My movie's better than your movie.
Genuinely, it was like that, where it's like, actually, The Dark Knight is better than Lady Bird. I was like, guys, we can like multiple movies. But all that to say, then you have like 6 HR reps watching you after the round table. It's speed dating with them. So 5-minute mini interviews with each of them, and then you find out a few days later.
Dude, that's a lot. Dude, that's a whole... But, I mean, I can see why. I mean, I guess you want to make sure if you're putting people on a golf cart for like a couple hours. You want to make sure they're really not a psychopath.
That they don't tire out, that they don't annoy you, that they're able to like incorporate dissenting opinions
like they're
into
not gonna
their
crash out in the
conversation.
middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how dare you say that? Stop asking about Harry Potter. Or just something like that. I mean, I remember. So when you picked your favorite movie, did you pick your favorite movie, or did you pick a movie that was related to that studio?
I played it cool. I chose very intentionally a movie that was not related to that studio.
Okay, you did it on purpose.
I had one in my back pocket in case nobody said a movie that was related to that studio. But every single person at the table said a movie related to that studio, and I was like, you know what? I'll just be honest. And so I threw out Inside Llewyn Davis.
Great movie.
Yeah, one of my faves.
So that, I mean, like, I remember I did an interview for a talent agency one time. I was trying to be a mailroom boy, like the lowest you could
Aren't
be.
we all?
Yeah, and I remember I didn't get it because literally as soon as I got off the phone for the interview, the writer's strike started. So they shut everything down.
Yeah, perfect timing on your part.
So they were like, dude, no. Like,
not only did you not get it, no one is
they were like, dude,
this.
everyone in this job got fired. But I remember I felt like I just kept saying the wrong thing, and I had someone tell me that they asked me who's an actor you really admire right now, or what's a movie you really like recently, and they were like, you probably should have said something related to that agency because it showed you did like your homework. And I was like, aren't they gonna know I'm lying? And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter. It shows that you Googled it, and you actually did that, and they want you to do that when you're like meeting with agents and shit. And I was like, man, shut up. You know, because I was just saying like random movies, but so I don't know. I mean, I think yours was definitely more earnest.
I don't want to set myself up as like I was fully honest in the interview. I did midway through the conversation also throw out, it's weird that we haven't talked about Blank, which was a movie that studio made that no one had referenced, that I A, love, but B, did want to show like, yeah, guys, where are they made? Blank.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I played both sides, so I would always come out on top.
So what's the time range between someone starting as like a tour guide or a page and then like becoming something else? Like how long have you seen people make that jump recently, or? Yeah,
so in the class above me, so people who have been there for probably about like a year and a half, because a new class comes in every 6 months. I've seen some people matriculate into positions in special events. Yeah, like...
What the hell does that mean? What's that?
Like graduate. You know, move up. Yeah, look it up.
Is that a real word?
Yeah, it's a real word.
I'm going to look it up after this. I'm sorry. I just learned a new word today. Every day is a school day.
It's what happens when you talk to an English major who's a tour guide.
Shit.
But...
They matriculate. Okay.
Yeah, they move up, I would say, typically in the 1.5 to 2 year zone. There are sometimes where people stay for the full 2 years and don't find a job through the company or through connections they've made. If that happens, c'est la vie, you're kind of on your own. It is sink or swim. But I've seen people move into really cool roles from this gig.
I know that I figured you probably get, you know, I'm sure it's not always going to come your way, but I'm sure you probably get like cool opportunities where it's like I have a friend of ours, I won't out her unless she doesn't want to come on the podcast, but I hope she will. She works at a museum near here, and that's connected to a lot of really cool things.
Oh, right.
And she'll get invited to like crazy events just because like, we need a seat filler for X or Y.
Oh, sure.
And I'm sure that you probably have heard something like that before, being like...
So the person who gave you and your mom your tour, she is being a seat filler at the Oscars this year.
You know what? I'm going to say, yeah, I'm talking about the same thing. Like, no, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about our friend is a seat filler at the Oscars frequently. But it's cool because I figure, like, you probably didn't think about that when you were, like, going to be a tour guide. Like, I remember one of the jobs I applied for and got an interview for and the writer's strike started was, it was actually a tour guide at Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah, right on.
And they were like, we want to interview you. And then the writer's strike started. Like, we don't want to interview you.
Why? What happened?
What did I do? They went on this hiring freeze for a little bit, but, you know, everybody knows that story. But no, I mean, I don't think I was considering when I got through the first round of that job
that like, you know, it might have been a foot in like multiple doors. You know, I realized like, oh well, I mean, just being in that area might have put me. Like Joey was on my podcast the last week, and he was saying that he would see famous people come into this event place that he wait staff for, and he was like, I'm just dying for like some executive to be like, I'm not going to do any effort. He's just going to look at me and be like, we need a new Peter Parker, and you have exactly the right one. And so, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen to you, but it's more likely to happen to you than to me. Because
no, I get what you're saying. Like, being in a physical space like that within the industry that, you know, you and me both are trying to crack into in some very similar ways and different ones. It is nice to kind of have the physical proximity to people who have made it and are able to potentially, you know, propel you forward. I'll tell you a story. I was on tour once, and I was parked with my group right beside a building that, you know, typically execs, actors will like meet people inside of. And right beside me, while I was giving my tour, Sterling K. Brown walked by.
Oh shit!
Yeah, who, by the way, gorgeous man.
Yeah,
like,
I can admit that.
Unsurprisingly,
I can admit that very easily.
But he like overheard my tour while I was talking and laughed at one of my jokes, and then kind of turned around and gave me like an approving nod and a thumbs up, and my whole group was like, "Oh my god!" And that was a moment where it's like, yeah, you know, you're like rubbing elbows with really cool, like Oscar nominees, Emmy winners. And it's nice to be reminded, like, yeah, you know, people do make it in the areas where you
should have, like, made that a thing, like, because, you know, I guess to your tour guides, they don't know who you are. You should have just been like, that's classic Sterling. Yeah, he's already, me and him were thick as thieves. Yeah.
Peter, you joke? That is exactly what I did. I was like, yeah, that's SKB over there. I literally...
Man, that's really funny. I mean, like, so have you like gotten the chance to like actually like have a conversation with like one of these people, or like does that not really happen?
I've had conversations. I'm having a conversation tomorrow actually with people in the areas on the lot that I'm interested in moving to.
Cool.
But I haven't like ever sat down with, you know, like a movie star or like someone, the star of your favorite TV show, just because that's not necessarily what I'm going for. There are people in the program who are actors who are probably trying to get more into that space. But the nice thing about being at this company is you get a company email, and that gets you noticed at places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this guy has a so-and-so email.
Yeah, exactly.
He's hot shit.
People say that out loud to me on the street.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
constantly.
How would they know you're?
I have a business card with my email on it on a blank piece of paper. It's actually 8x11. It's a full pleated sheet.
I thought you were gonna say like you wear it on a T-shirt.
Yeah,
my email is just on the T-shirt.
I wear a T-shirt with my email and then Coney 2012 on it.
Oh, dude, that's the deepest cut. Dude, I forgot all about that. Coney
Well, that's why I'm raising awareness.
You guys forgot.
I bet all our listeners forgot about Coney 2012.
Yeah, but I remember I've been to some like short film festivals out here where I'll see famous people, and not like, you know, A-list stars, but you know, you see someone who's like, oh shit, that guy was in that TV show. Yeah. Or something like that, someone recognizable. And recently I was at a short film festival where one of the people presenting a short film was, you haven't seen Always Sunny in Philadelphia, have you?
Yeah, I have. I love that show.
Yeah, the waitress was there.
Oh,
it was
really?
Mary Elizabeth Ellis. And I remember this woman gets up to present her short film, and I'm like, that looks just like Mary Elizabeth Ellis. Yeah. And it was her. And I was like, what is she doing here? And someone was like, she's presenting a film, you jackass. Like, she's that way. But I remember I talked to her for a couple minutes, and I asked her like all these questions about the short film, and then right before I left, I was like, I have to know, like, do you know the waitress's real name?
That's really cool.
She was like, no, there's no real name. We never made one. Anyone who tells you they know is lying. There's no...
That's good.
But no, I mean, I remember I always, you know, I've said this before, but I don't really feel the need to go talk to a celebrity unless I feel like I have something meaningful to say.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
I'm the same way. I never approach people.
I don't think it's reasonable to think that, you know, some random guy up the street would be like, you're the famous director, give me a job. And they're going to be like, yeah. I don't know. know, the whole idea of an elevator pitch, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit of a pessimist.
I'm very similar where I'm like, if the roles are reversed and I'm the person just going about my day, there is not a thing I would want, even now, like being very not famous and very not important.
Yes.
Even now, I don't want people to come up to me when I'm just walking somewhere, you know? I have so much respect for people who have to put up with that, like, and I don't know, that could never be me. I feel like I would not handle it well.
You're going to be on Kimmel and they're going to play clips of this in about 20 years if Jimmy Kimmel... He's going to be 70 then, if you can believe that.
Yeah, they'll probably have gotten, I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel too. They'll have cloned
Some
him.
SNL cast member is going to drive... He's going to rise up the ranks.
Yeah, Andrew Dismukes live.
Probably. I would actually like that.
Yeah, me too. I love Dismukes. Shout out Dismukes.
But yeah, I mean, so if you could go back in time, do you think you would have just done the exact same thing, or do you were like, oh man, I should have gone with this route, or I should have done this other job, or do you feel like this is like, no, this was a good step. This was a really good step.
You talking purely like out here in LA?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, so you came from what? Was it Illinois?
Yeah, I came from Chicago, went to school in Michigan, moved out here fall 2023, right after the writer's strikes began. So similar vibe to you.
That was pretty similar. Yeah.
Oh, cool! No jobs are open. Awesome.
They were saying the only worst time I could have came was like pure like peak COVID.
Yeah, peak COVID and like 08 recession. I'm sure.
Yeah, those two. You know, that or like maybe World War II. But I was gonna say, like, if you could go back to like when you had first moved out, do you think you would have been like, you know, would you have told yourself like, go be a page immediately, or would you have been like, dude, try something else? Like,
well, so it's interesting. Like, I feel like I would have done it very similarly, if not the exact same, of just shooting out applications everywhere I could. Mm-hmm. This was the first thing that really hit. I mean, I had a different job that I worked at pretty frequently until I got this one that was very much a pay the bills job. I worked at a small little movie theater, but I think I would still tell my past self to take this job, not only because there are potential avenues that I'm really, really hoping it will lead me into, and good conversations are being had about that right now, but also just the people I've met from it. I mean, you've met some of my friends.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Really, really meaningful connections and relationships that I made out here in a way where I'm like, yeah, even if I leave this job having only the experience of doing tours, which I've already gotten more out of it than that, I wouldn't regret it for the people I've met, which is sappy, but true.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. No, I mean, I remember, you know, I've heard people say that, like, you don't really know where the next generation of, like, famous writers is. Like, a lot of them are probably at the same level of being poor and nobody at the same time.
Yeah.
So they're saying, like, you know, if you make it big someday, chances are, like, a friend of a friend of a friend is also going to make it. Like, wait, we were poor that one time.
Yeah, exactly. We met at that bar and neither one of us could afford the drink that we bought.
Exactly. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that's comforting, you know? I don't know. I mean, look, people made fun of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they were, you know, they were poor, and suddenly, I mean, they're probably secretly lovers, in my opinion. But
I hope they are. I think that's a lovely image.
Which could mean nothing, you know?
Which could mean nothing. The wedding ring always being off. Shout out Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, two of my favorite working actors, genuinely.
But okay, so before I close this off, this is the time I say I want you to tell me a funny story about working as a page, and nothing that's going to get you fired. Tell me like an interesting thing that happened, and then we can close it out.
I will tell you. So, to preface this, I like to think, and I've been told that I'm very good at my job. I'm about to tell you the worst tour I ever gave.
Okay, please.
Which was an executive level tour. It was my first one. So
what does that mean?
It means that someone very high up in the company was coming to the lot and wanted a private tour, one-on-one.
But why? If they're so just for fun?
I can tell you off mic why this person wanted one.
Okay, that's fine.
This person, by the way, could not have been nicer.
Oh, that's good.
Genuinely, one of my kindest, most invested tour guests. They were so excited.
Okay, great.
And it was my first exec tour, and I was so nervous. Okay. On exec tours, we bring them coffee at the start.
Okay.
And I had put in this person's coffee order, and I had brought it to their cart, and I had set it down in the cup holder for before the tour started. And then I went to pick up the guest, and I picked him up, and I brought him to the welcome center where we welcome our guests. And I took him through it, and the tour was going great. First 10 minutes, flawless. And then I get back to the cart, and he sits down next to me, and I sit down in the driver's seat, and I go to get his coffee. And he receives a message on his phone, and he goes, "Oh," and there's a loud ding. And as he says, "Oh," and there's a loud ding, I turn and say, "Huh?" And then my hand hits the steering wheel, and I spill coffee all over myself in the cart. And so I have to radio my boss asking for rags to wipe up the coffee to make sure it doesn't hit this executive, who, by the way, is cracking up, has put his phone down and is fully laughing at me in like a very kind way where he's like, no, it's so fine. This is so funny. Don't worry. Don't be nervous. And I'm freaking out. I'm drenched in sweat. It's the middle of the summer.
Is it hot coffee?
It's hot. It's hot coffee. It is like, it hurt when it hit my hand. It is also summer. Now, cut to later on in the tour. I am taking him through a spot with a lot of different props and artifacts from over the years of this movie's studio's history. And we pass by a framed photo of one of our old stars.
Okay.
And I say, "Hey, this is so-and-so actress," the person I had been told that it was. Then the head archivist pops his head out of the office and goes, "Actually, that's not who that is. That's a common mistake. That person is," and he goes on a 5-minute spiel about who that actress is and why I'm dumb for being wrong in front of a very important person who's laughing and like,
Dude,
"Oh,
wait.
that's so funny."
Do you think the archivist knew who that was?
No.
Okay, so
The archivist had no idea. He probably thought I was just on a regular tour that no one had booked. And so I am standing there, and my executive is being very kind to the archivist, like, "Oh, wow, can you tell me more?" But it becomes very obvious very quickly he wants to move on. So I have to keep butting in and be like, "All right, well, thank you so much, sir. We're just going to head on." He's like, "One more thing, young man, for you to remember so you don't get that wrong again." And I am mortified. I am so embarrassed. And the tour ends, and the guy's like, "Thank you so much. That was amazing. Like, hey, I'll remember you. I'll remember your name." And under my breath, I'm just literally like, "Please don't. Like, please don't remember me." So that is the worst tour I
Actually,
ever.
I said that was going to be my last question, but that does that I have one question.
Okay.
I have, is that I've booked a spot on your tour, and I know that you book like a time slot.
Yeah.
And how many people? So like for me, I booked me and my friend Arjun, who can't come back to poker night because
Who was permanently banned.
He's permanently banned. But I was going to ask. So has anyone booked a ticket for themselves and no one else showed up? Have you ever done a tour where it's just you and one other person?
So that is not common, but it does happen. And when it happens, it is known on the lot as a date because it's a one-on-one. And it's anywhere from 2 to 4.5 hours, right? So you're getting to know this person. And sometimes dates are amazing and you really connect. Sometimes dates are very bad and the person... maybe you don't speak the same language, maybe they aren't as interested in movies as you would hope they would be, and they are painful. I once had a date, not with one person, but with one party, a party of 2, who were friends, who it seemed like the guy may have been interested in the girl, but the girl wasn't interested, and that was a very fascinating vibe to contend with.
So like it was a guy and a girl... And, like, I think maybe he thought it was, like, a date?
He may have thought it was a
Okay.
date. She did not seem to think so.
Wow.
Um,
That's brutally awkward, man. Like,
it was, dude, it was rough. And it was the thing where, like, they would be talking amongst each other, and, like, while I'm supposed to be talking. And so I would just kind of wait for their conversation to trickle to an end, which was always brought on by her. And then I would be like... So our next stop, like, I would just have to break up their awkwardness.
Well, I mean, I know that, like, it must, if you're doing, like, a group of 5 or 6, I mean,
Yeah.
like, you're expecting 2 people to maybe say something to each other during
Yes.
it. But if you're talking and then the only 2 people in the group are, like, kind of talking to themselves, it's like, what, are they listening?
I drove the security cart for a big a big government relations tour that we
Okay.
did. And so I drove around the security, and it truly was the type of thing where I would start talking, and then security would like get a notification in their earpiece, and I would have to stop on a dime. So I'd be like, and if you look to your right, you'll see... And I would just cut out because they would have like things to take care of.
Dude, that's really funny, man. No, it sounds like you have some really interesting stories, man, and I hope you don't have to do any crazy exec tours where you ruin your career, you know?
Right, crash and burn. Yeah,
you never know what could happen the next time it happens. But yeah, thank you for coming on, man. That was really interesting, and yeah, just thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Peter. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Employed People. Next week, I don't know who we're going to be interviewing. I have a couple different people who might be on, so I don't know, but we'll see. See you guys then.